Welcome to Africa Express. Today we are back at African Presidential Center and we are interviewing a very courageous, important man with us, the former president of Zambia. What you're going to hear is going to amaze you. He's a very remarkable man and he's none other than His Excellency Rupiah Banda.
Thank you.
Sir, you're welcome.
Much. Thank you.
You are here for the Presidential Residence Program.
Yes.
I've heard so much about this program, sir, and I'm curious though. What exactly would you be doing during your stay here?
Yes. I've done more than a month of my stay here. Okay. And it's been a very satisfying program for me and my colleague who came down with me, Dr. Richard Chembe. Not only have we met students here at Boston University, we've also been availed the opportunity to travel to Atlanta, Georgia, where we visited the Morehouse University, a very famous black university, and the University for Ladies next door to Morehouse, and then we went on from there to Elizabeth City in North Carolina. In each of these places, we either made a major speech, as we did here in Boston, or we lectured in the classroom on a given subject to interested students, which I found very exciting because it gave me the opportunity to hear what the thinking of the young people, the students in the world is all about. And then we met with all prominent people like former mayor of Atlanta, Mr.
Andrew Young?
Andrew Young, yes, my old friend, sorry. And many other prominent Americans. And then we went to Washington, D.C., we went to Georgetown University, addressed the students there and gave them an opportunity to ask as many questions as they wanted.
So all of that in 1 month?
Oh yeah, we've been doing that continuously. We are moving all the time. And then here we visited MIT. Again, it was very exciting. We had some lecturers from Africa as well. We had a lecturer from Lagos who made a fantastic speech about developments in Africa. So they complemented very well with my remarks, but we had a lot of students from Senegal, from Nigeria, Ghana, from all parts of Africa, including Zambia itself, and American students. So we've done a lot since we came.
Sounds like it's going to be an interesting year.
Very interesting for me, especially after the grueling elections. I needed to come and open my ears and listen to the world, and also talk about what I talked about in our campaigns, and also my ideas about how we think Africa should proceed, particularly my country, Zambia, a wonderful country, and that's why we are very proud that we, in our steps, the steps that I took immediately after losing the election, are in the interests of Zambia continuing to grow.
Do you have any plans of doing any projects in Zambia after your stay here?
Yes, well, you know, I have so many things to do. An African cannot look for something to do. There's so much to do. First of all, when I was president, all my personal things, I had to put them aside. For instance, I own a farm, a 500-acre farm, which I've owned for the last 25 years. I'll spend a little more time on it. And then, of course, I have young children. I have a set of twins. They're 8 years old. And I think a little more, they deserve a little more time from me. With their brothers, I spent a lot of time. So And then I became president. I didn't spend my time. They are here in Boston with me.
So, sir, tell me, how would you like history to remember you?
Well, you know, all of us who become politicians must have an aim. And my aim from the very beginning was that I should do the best that I can. I'm only human. I cannot do more than what is possible. And also, I have my colleagues, my team, the team I worked with. We always brainstormed about our future, what we want to see. We want to transform. We wanted to transform Zambia and to leave it a better place to live in than when we became leaders. And I think we did quite a bit about that from the statistics which are available. We grew the economy, we built more schools, we built more than 130 secondary schools across the country. We built new hospitals, we built health centers, we repaired thousands and thousands of roads which had not been attended to for a very long time. So within these 3 years we did the best that we could.
Your Excellency, how were you able to do that though? Then, I mean, around the world, the economy, the recession was down. I mean,
yes.
Most countries were suffering from that.
Yes.
And yet your country
yes.
was able to move ahead.
Yes.
So how did you do that?
I don't know about other countries. It's possible that other countries also managed to go ahead. But by making a decision that during the recession we must prepare ourselves for when the recession will be over. So what do we do? Our budget, how do we tailor our budget in such a way that the economic activities are such that will grow the economy, such that will give employment to our rural people, give employment to our urban young people? Not as much as we would like, but we decided to invest into the economy, to grow to rebuild the infrastructure of the country, so that the rural areas are then open for when the economy in the world goes back to normalcy. We can then penetrate the rural areas, which we did. And we did this by using our own resources, the money that we had for our budget. As you know, the price of copper until that time had been at about $9,000 per metric ton. So we had accumulated some money from the copper price, the copper that we're the largest copper growers in Africa. So we decided to use this money for this purpose, to give it back to the people. And also we decided to support the agricultural sector, not only the commercial agricultural sector who can get money from the banks, but as a government we put aside a lot of money to support the rural areas so that they can grow enough food. And as the statistics will show you, for the 3 years that I was president, we had a bumper crop of our staple food, maize, and all other crops that we grow in our country, because we supported our peasant farmers with the fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer. We also gave them good seed. We bought the seed for them and gave them together with fertilizer for them to pay at a lower price. As a result, we have enough food in the country up to now, and we don't have to spend a lot of money to bring food from outside, as had been the case before.
So that would account to how the GDP of your country rose to 7.6?
Yes, 7.6, yes, exactly. I must also add that, because I don't want to look ungrateful, we had a lot of goodwill in the world. The support from the donor countries increased because our policies were deliberately made to encourage foreign direct investment into our country, and also to encourage the donors to bring in money into the country to help us in the sectors of health, of which 25% of the budget in Zambia is health. And of that 25%, almost 18% came from the donors. With the problems of AIDS and TB and so in our country, we got a lot of support from outside. We got also a lot of support into the educational sector. So that helped us to use our resources to rebuild the country.
Tell me a little bit about the HIV/AIDS project program. The country did a lot of work there.
We did a lot of work, and the figures also show that we made some successes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sir, looking around Africa as a whole, I'm going to deviate a bit. Do you think that the Islamist rebel activities could change or could deter the change that Africa seeks?
Yes. Well, I presume you're asking whether these Islamist problems that the continent is facing would change our path towards democracy.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I think that is up to us. Like in Zambia, I think we decided that democracy is the path that we intend to take. Well, we find that with the democratic dispensation, people are involved in what you are doing, and therefore they are more energized and they're more cooperative towards each other. So it's really up to us, the Africans, to continue to commit ourselves to democracy and so forth, and also to listen very carefully to what the people are saying. It may be the problem of Islamism in some of African countries, and I don't want to talk about other countries, because in our country it's a very small problem. We have very few Muslims, but we have seen what has happened in North Africa and some parts of West Africa. I think that it must give us energy to continue to take care of the interests of the majority of the people. Once we take care of the people will protect our efforts towards democracy and protect the governments and so on. What has happened in North Africa, I think, is a clear example of a rebellion by people who for a long time have not been given the opportunity to choose their leaders and to have a system whereby the will of the people is expressed. But in many African countries, I think attempts are being made to listen to the people.
What role do you think the African Union has in this?
The African Union, yes. A big role, of course, to play. You have seen recently what happened in Mali after the problems in Libya, where many of the people who were supporting the previous government came from some West African countries, the Tuareg tribes and so on. They came down with arms and well trained and so on, and helped to trigger problems in places like Mali and one of the former Portuguese Guinea-Bissau, yes. But by the ECOWAS, the leaders of ECOWAS coming together and taking a common position, they were able to compel the young people who wanted to take over militarily something which is antiquated and which is not really good for our continent. The whole world is going towards democracy. So they were able to force them to accept to go back. I think that there's a role which they play. They also play different roles in our economies. The West African organization, ECOWAS, is trying to open up the borders towards each other so that goods can move, people can move, they can trade, and so on. I think the more that takes place, the more development will take place. In our part, we have SADC, of which Zambia is a member, the SADC, Southern African Development Organization, have also the same role. If there are problems in our region, we try to assist the AU to understand those problems. So we need these regional organizations, all of them meeting at the AU to look after the interests of the Africans. After all, we need to be big units in order to grow our economies, to be heard politically at the United Nations. We have to have organizations such as the AU to do that.
Now, something that you mentioned, the intra-trade.
Yes.
Intra-trade, I think, is very important.
Yes,
that Africa as a whole should do something about that.
Yes.
And one country in Africa people being able to carry their goods across.
Yes.
Now, apart from just having meetings,
yes,
are there anything in place, or that the African leaders are putting in place to actually make this come true? Because it is a very important.
It is very, very important that trade between African countries take place. And I'm proud to say this on behalf of the colleagues that I worked with, that we attach great importance to this. In our region, in the Southern African region, including some parts of North Africa, Egypt and so on, they are members of not only SADC, but they're also members of COMESA. And we have put laws in place where goods which are manufactured even as far as Egypt can land in Zambia with low duties or without duties, because they are members of this organization, and vice versa. So not only are we talking about this, in practical terms, people are moving with goods from one country to the other, and those goods enter those countries with preferential duties.
Let's go back to Zambia then.
Yes, let's go back to dear Zambia.
The Chirwa declaration by former President Kaunda.
Yes.
Promoted one-party system.
Yes.
How many parties does Zambia have now?
Oh, now we have, I would say, 3 major political parties: the UPND, then the MMD, the party to which I belong, and the PF, the ruling party. These are the 3 main parties, but there are several other parties, perhaps up to about 15 parties. When we go to the elections, everybody is free to stand for elections without any impediment.
So what led to the change to decide to have multiple, again, from
from one party?
But one party to
the experience of the one-party state. Don't forget, my sister, that at the time when Zambia was in a one-party state, and of course we used the name Kaunda, Kaunda's time, the Chirwa declaration, yes, under Dr. Kaunda, we are all members of that party. I was a very active member of the party, and at the time it was perhaps fashionable. It was what was happening all over the world. We still had the Soviet Union, you had all the Eastern Bloc, the Western Bloc, the neutral blocs. So at that time, it was thought generally by our leaders that that was the way to go. But as you know, people in Africa agitated against this. You went through in other parts of Africa, in West Africa, in North Africa, military regimes, etc. But the people rejected this. They feel that that is oppressive and obstructive to development. So that was what happened in Zambia as well. There was a lot of agitation against the one-party state. It became oppressive. It became a little bit deaf. It was not listening to what the people were saying. Until in 1991, we had to go back to the multi-party system. And the party which led to this is the MMD. That's why by its name you can tell, the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy. The people of Zambia felt that they needed to go back to this freedom where people can join the party of their choice. And if you go by the economic performance of the country since the change of government, they were right. We have developed much faster, much quicker, and become more acceptable to the rest of the world, to the investors. Even here, the people know very well that if they have their money and they put it in a country such as Zambia, that this money is safe, it's protected by the law. So there may be individuals who might want to distort this and so on, but the law is very clear that the Zambian people want to protect the properties of the people who invest their money in our country.
Excellency, one of the issues that's been, would I say, going around the diasporan community as a whole, African diasporan community, is the infiltration of China into Africa. Some they see it positively, but at least majority see it as a negative thing, as a result of the fact that a lot of raw materials are being taken out of Africa into China.
Right.
What is your view?
My view is that, first of all, I think that when you use words such as infiltration, there's something sinister about it, and that they are coming at night, or that they are cheating people into believing that China's collaboration with China is a good thing. I think that it's not only Africa that is collaborating with China here. And everywhere else in the world, China is the dominant force, because if its people have gone from poverty, from extreme poverty, unproductive, etc., to where they are today, where every one of us, I believe, even in our homes, when you look at the label of who made your fridge or your bed, and so you might find that the Chinese have done that. So it's infiltration. Is not a very good word, but the question you ask is the taking away of resources from Africa and taking them to China, is that a good thing? I would say as a leader that it would be much better if these resources were processed and given more value, added value in our countries in Africa. And I had the opportunity to talk to a number of Chinese leaders. I visited China for 10 days. I met all the top 3 leaders and told them that in Africa it would be better for us if our copper, our iron, our nickel, our gold, our oil, and all these things were added value to in Africa in order to create employment to our people. This is not only for China, but for everybody else. Don't forget that in Zambia, for instance, which is the biggest copper mining country in Africa today, we produce more copper than any other African country. China is about the 5th on the list of the countries that are mining in Zambia. The topmost, I think I would say, is perhaps Australia, Canada, United States of America, Great Britain, South Africa. All these are mining in our country. India is also very big in our country. And the issue, the debate is, shouldn't they be giving value to this copper in the country before they take it out? It's not only them who are doing that, many others take it out. So as a result of this debate between the leadership or between the Africans and the investors, be they from the West or from the East, is that now they are beginning to have to build factories in Zambia to process this copper. The Indians are doing it in Zambia. The Chinese are doing it in Zambia. The Western countries, Australians, are doing it in Zambia, and so on. So that is increasing the number of involvement of our people within the country and growing the country, building factories and processing plants, etc. This is the direction in which I think we should go. And the Chinese cannot be made an exception to this. The issue of China and Africa is not, and Zambia, it's not just Zambia. In the rest of Africa, the Chinese are going in because they have money. When people have money, you can't stop them.
Yes, sir. We do agree that they have money.
Yes,
but
yes.
What you just pointed out,
yes, yes.
If every country
yes.
would say, okay,
yes.
these materials, leave them here.
Yes.
We don't mind selling it to
yes.
you, but leave the factories there.
Yes.
Let our people get employment.
Yes.
At the same time, also transfer of technology,
yes,
so that
yes.
our people can learn this, how
exactly.
to use this
exactly.
technology,
exactly.
and not just go import your people into our country,
yes, yes.
take our stuff and move it back.
Yes.
We didn't get anything.
Yes, yes.
At the end of the day.
Yes. You know, that is the direction where Zambia is going. Definitely, we're going in that direction. But we can't stop mining our copper and getting money from it, then we're stopping development in our country. We have to, for the time being, get that money, whether they're taking the resources out to China, out to Australia, out to the United States. They must pay us for what they are taking.
Yes, sir.
Meanwhile, they must build infrastructure within our countries to enable our people learn, transfer the technology. And with the Chinese, it's more complicated. With the Americans, I was saying to the Americans, why aren't you coming? why aren't the British coming more? Because we speak the same language. Your machinery is labeled the same way that our people in Nigeria, in Zambia, in Ghana can understand, or France, the French-speaking countries can understand that. The Chinese one is a problem because it's all in their language. But the Chinese are responding to that as well. They're taking large quantities of young people from Africa. Zambia is not one of the largest. When I was there, I found out that West Africa and North Africa have more young people studying in Chinese universities in order to learn their languages also. Probably they can read their literature and be able to learn the technology from there. But the policy must be by us Africans to insist that our resources should be used to grow our economies by processing them within our country.
At least at the beginning of the negotiation.
Yes.
That should be part of it.
Yes.
We should make it a policy that at the beginning of the negotiation.
That is the policy.
That it is included. If not, no deal.
You know that
quite all right, we need money.
You know that in Zambia, for instance, I give you an example of we insisted that they must come and open what do you call this on the Copper Belt, must open a place where
multi-facility economic zone.
Multi-facility economic zone where they are going to many companies from all over the world. It's built by the Chinese, but it's open to everybody else, including Zambians. Can open their factory, whatever, to make soap, to make whatever, within this zone. And there are laws protecting the investment into this zone. We insist that they should do that. What happens is this, that like in the case of Zambia, the Chinese said it would take them about 4 to 5 years to finish building. It's it's an investment of over 250 million United States dollars. But our government, before I became president, I was vice president.
Yes.
But my president then, the late president, may he so rest in peace, President Mwanawasa, said, no, we want this thing finished within 2 years. So the Chinese said, okay, if you want it finished within half of the time, then you have to allow us to bring more Chinese to come and work, because they will work overtime at night and so on. And he permitted them, and they finished. They were given work permits. By the way, nobody can, even if you bring your money, you can't just bring people into Zambia. We must give you a work permit. We must know, just like you do here, we must know who are you bringing in and for what period. How long are they going to stay? And the job they're going to do, can a Zambian do it? Or how many Zambians will they be able to train by the end of the period when they will have finished their contract? They built this multi-facility zone within 2 years and packed up and left. And the zone is there now.
Well, sir, it would be good if the rest of the other African countries would emulate Zambia.
Thank you.
Because
perhaps that's why we grew so much, our economy grew so much during that period, because we were very particular about the benefits to the Zambian people. We also we must take into account the one who is investing the money, regardless of where they're coming from, that their investment is secured, that we will not sequestrate it or nationalize it, that they will be able to get their profits and be able to expatriate the profits free like everybody else, including Zambians, by the way. The exchange controls in Zambia are such that they don't only encourage you if you come to start a broadcasting station. And if you are allowed to take out money as your profits, even the Zambian companies are allowed as well, because we know that investors can be Zambians as well.
So when you were giving a speech last time, I was listening.
That's when I first met you.
And one of the things you mentioned, I'm curious to find out, why did you not intervene in President Chirwa's court trial in London?
Yes, because as you remember in my speech at Boston University, I made it very clear that our government was based on the separation of powers. Separation of the judiciary, separation of the parliament, and the executive, the presidents, and each one of us have a role to play. And the issue of President Chirwa was in courts at the time. There was no way. My hands are handicapped by that system, and as a result, the judgment in Britain, which was against him, there was also a judgment in Zambia, which was for him, creating a little bit of a problem for us. But we did not intervene because we felt that the processes must be allowed to go through.
Which I think it was a good decision.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was a good decision. Something that we just talked about, foreign investment
Yes.
shifting to China and Asia.
Yes.
Why China and India? I mean,
And Asia
why
and India.
Yeah, why not UK, the Europeans, and America?
Yes. No, it's not to their exclusion. Foreign investment is for any foreign country who want to come to Zambia. And I'm taking advantage of this interview as a Zambian, as a former leader, and as a Zambian with children in Zambia, to encourage American investment to come to Zambia. To encourage, I went to Nigeria. I know you're originally from Nigeria. I went to Nigeria to visit the late President Yaradua when he was very ill. Because I had received from our ambassador a message that he was not in a good condition. So I went, as an African, I went to see him and to pray with him and to wish him all the best and so on. And during that time, we made arrangements for an exchange of trade missions. I took a delegation of nearly 100 companies from Zambia to Nigeria. As a result of that, we have some big investments from Nigeria in Zambia. We have perhaps the second largest cement factory is from Dangote, a Nigerian. Bigger investment than the European investments which are in Zambia. Cement is made by a French company called Lafarge. But he came and he's putting up a factory bigger than Lafarge. And we have 3 banks from Nigeria, Eco Bank, Access Bank, and another bank and so on. We have banks from India, from Malaysia, from China, and of course the majority of the banks are from the Western countries and some indigenous banks in Zambia. So our investment policy is open to everyone to come to our country.
So, in your inauguration, not concession speech,
Yes.
you made a very powerful speech. You said Zambia deserves a decent democratic process. Then you went on to say, indeed, Zambia must build on her past victories. Said that our independence was hard-won, our democracy secured with blood.
Yes.
How did it feel to, here you are?
Yes. I'm not the president anymore.
Yes.
Not
And
easy.
you gracefully,
Yes.
and you made such a speech to encourage your people.
Yes.
Unlike, if I may say, most of the recent ex-presidents that we know of.
But he had a very good one in Senegal recently, where of course he had been there for much longer than myself, and the issues which preceded that were about him having a 3rd or 4th or 5th term, whatever it is. But in my case, I'd only done 3 years because I came in after 2 years had been carried on by the late president. And our constitution says that if a president dies, the next president will serve for the rest of the period which the first president would have done. In other words, from the 2 years he did, I was left with 3 years to do. But in the case of Senegal, you know, the issues were about whether he should stand or not. But after the courts had pronounced themselves and the people of Senegal had agreed that they would go to the elections with him in accordance with the decision of the court, he accepted. And I think that we must give credit where it is due. In my case, from the very beginning, it was very clear that I preached acceptance of the results of the elections. Of course, I must say, perhaps I was almost sure that I would win.
It was very close though.
Yes, it was
so
very close.
You could have contested?
I could have contested, yes, but you know, the atmosphere was already very poisoned in the country. My opponents, the one who won the election, had already publicly stated that if they don't win, they're going to go to war. And they started sharpening knives in the streets. And you know, things start that way. And I did not want to be the one to be blamed for shedding the blood of the Zambian people.
Which is very remarkable.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So today our country is going forward. We hope that they will appreciate what I did, that the Zambian people listened to what I said. I know this. What you are saying, you sound like a Zambian. Many Zambians say so. Even our press, when they talk to me, they say what you are saying, that what you did was noble, it's a good thing. But you see, you know, there are leaders also. Our leaders who are there, they also made promises, some of them wild promises, where they would come and they would make sure that transform the country, that you get up one morning and find lots of money in your pocket. Of course, that's not possible. So they have to explain it to the people how. They have not done so. And one of the best ways to explain it is to put the blame on the previous regime. But the people know better.
Your Excellency, if you were to say a word of advice
Yes.
to the rest of the African leaders,
Yes.
when it comes to election,
Yes.
getting out of office,
Yes.
and letting the democratic system work,
Yes. Yes.
what would you say to that?
Well, is it in Latin? I don't want to quote it in Latin, but can translate it. That the voice of the people is the voice of God. Once the people have spoken, I think that we should accept. Even the narrow margin of 180,000 votes, which I my colleague beat me with, is enough. They have spoken. If as a result of my contest it create tension in the country and people have to go in the streets like they did in Senegal and a few lives are lost and so on, you don't know the amount of the lives that will be lost. It could be more people would have died than you would expect. And I just didn't want to have that. And I feel my conscience is very clear. I feel that I did the right thing. A lot of my colleagues may not have liked it. They would have liked that we contest it. But since the blame would fall on me as the president, I had to make the decision. And I made the decision. And as a result of that decision, I'm a free man. I can travel wherever I want to go to. And here I am here having the opportunity to share my experiences, the experiences of my government and my colleagues, and what we did in all sectors of life, education, health, development, politics, all this sort of thing. And in the process, I am learning. From your questions, I'm learning what are the issues that the world is concerned about. You will be surprised that many of the questions that you have raised, even about China and so on, there is no place I have gone to here in the United States and somebody didn't raise this question. So that tells me that that is an issue. It's an issue on which people are interested. People question of governance and so on, accepting the results of the election. Everybody is talking about that. So it means that I am benefiting also by being here and listening to all of you and all the people that I'm coming across, so that I understand what are the issues that we should, as leaders, pay attention to.
Before we round up,
Yes.
if you were to advise the present president of Zambia,
Yes.
as to direction to go regarding perhaps one of the projects that you started,
Yes.
which project would you like to see him actually carry on?
Actually, most of the projects that we carried on, that we started, were good projects. And I don't need to advise him, he has already continued. Starting with even just the budget. As you know, our budget starts in January. Our elections were in December. In September rather. And we normally go through the processes of preparing the budget so that by the 1st of January we have a new budget and so on. Our elections were in September. There was no way they could have made a budget. So the Minister of Finance was gracious enough to accept that their budget is the budget that was put in place. In other words, that they accepted our priorities there. We were fixing the roads all over the towns because our roads had not been fixed for many, many years, over 20 years. Our towns were dilapidated, all the roads were broken down, the people during the rainy season were stuck in mud and so on. So we decided to fix this. They decided to continue and do it. The only difference is that they are not admitting that they are continuing. They are saying they are starting, but that's politics. Yes, we are going to receive a sum of 350 million from the United States in what is called the Millennium
Challenge.
Huh?
Millennium Challenge account.
The Millennium Challenge account, which took us nearly 3 years to negotiate with the United States government. It has passed through. Since I've been here, they came to Washington to sign it. We're going to receive from the United States and the projects that will be financed through this. One of them is very important to the health of the Zambian people: water reticulation and processing, cleaning up the water, so that our people are healthy to be able to carry this economy, to be able to work hard without falling ill, etc. And we're very grateful for that. But our colleagues will not say that we negotiated this. It takes at least 3 years, yes. 2.5 years, 3 years. We did that. They've carried. So my advice, since you have given me that opportunity, to my president is don't feel embarrassed to continue to carry on the projects which we started if you think they're for the good of the people. And be courageous enough to say that we are carrying on these projects. It doesn't change anything. You're still one, you'll still be the government. But you know, sometimes in politics we try to
it's still for the betterment of Zambia.
Yeah, it is still for our people. And I think that's the most important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your
Excellency.
Thank
you for this opportunity.
Thank you for being on this show and sharing your view with all of us. We really do appreciate it, sir.
Thank you very much.
You have been watching us on Africa Express with His Excellency President Rupiah Banda from Zambia. And you have heard his views, and again, I think he's a very courageous man and a man to be commended for what he did, the example that he set as a president from Africa. Again, thank you for watching us on this channel. Please do continue to watch us again, and remember that Africa Express was there.
Thank you.